pleased to talk to Larry and Norma. When I see these people, I just see, wow, this is how we should all age. And I see so many people in retirement and say that the golden, and I should correct myself. You're not retired yet.
That's right.
Correct.
But
Semi.
Yeah, and I see so many people not enjoying the golden years, and you guys enjoy the golden years. And one of the things is that you're such a wonderful couple. I can't see you being inseparable. And we decided to share about 100 stories that over the last 40 years of practice and medicine exploration. And so the teams we put together really a fascinating story. And to me is that I want to share with you Larry's and Norma's experience about how to age well and how to get the most out of life. So take it away, everybody. Next slide.
Hey Larry, can you please tell us about your first time at the clinic?
Well, I have to visit Dr. Curnew's health clinic for checkups every year to keep my pilot's license. They want to see all kinds of tests, not only from the aviation medical physician, but from Dr. Curnew, and his he has a great. They're really happy to take his word for my medical, because he is held in high esteem in medical circles as far as
Transport Canada.
With Transport Canada, as far as being a cardiologist.
Yeah, it's interesting because Larry is 21 going on 78 at this point in time. And
That's right.
and
we still say we haven't decided what we want to do when we grow up yet.
Yeah. One of the things that my wife says that, so one of the things I think is really surrounding yourself with a great team. So my wife is Carrie, and my family has been so supportive, but my wife says I live in Disney World, and I think it's a great place to live. And you create your own Disney World. So we got to know you because as we get older, is to still fly a plane, you have to go for a yearly medical examination. You have to go through Transport Canada, and you also have to get approval from a cardiologist. So it's and in one sense it's a nuisance, but to me it's been an exciting pathway because
it has, and it let us get you on our team, Dr. Curnew. And also in the beginning, it was just the tests. And as you got to know us, we are so grateful that you took the liberty to suggest the cholesterol medications. And Larry, you were not in favor of that at first.
No, but it's a combination of things, really, because Norma does a great job of cooking and making us eat healthy with low cholesterol food. So it's both.
I like his use of the word making us eat healthy. I would like to think that I entice, but that's why I was really pleased, because I remember Larry tried Lipitor at first and it didn't work. It actually made your legs weaker, didn't it, Larry, for a treadmill? And when we communicated to you, Dr. Curnew, you were so adept at saying, well, let's try another one then, a low dosage. And it's a preventative. And Larry and I were both a bit hesitant because all our lives, like, we still don't take any other prescriptions except that one low dosage cholesterol pill. And we've always tried to use natural methods as much as possible. But you looked us in the eye, Dr. Curnew, and you said, your husband will live longer if he takes this. And that was it. We respect your knowledge. And we knew right then that Larry needed to take it. And with the rosuvastatin, you've had no problem, and you take it every single day. So we are grateful to you, Dr. Curnew.
That's right.
Well, I'm grateful to serve. I'm just going into my repertoire. I alternate between atorvastatin, Lipitor, 80 milligrams, rosuvastatin, Crestor, 10 milligrams a day, and plus ezetimibe. So I took 80 of atorvastatin, but I'm going to just take 10 milligrams of ezetimibe right now. So I'm taking a much higher dose than yourself. And that's part of my repertoire of living longer and healthy. It's interesting. We all want a natural approach. And And I get that, but is that one time we used medications for illness, now we use medications for prevention. And maybe we should rename these medications instead of cholesterol medications, medications that try to unplug or keep the arteries from getting plugged less. We talked about your plane, a good oil change. So this is actually a good oil change to the arteries, and we're going to talk a little bit about the natural history of what happens to arteries.
And it would be nice if they were grouped more in a vitamin supplement and nutrient supplements like that.
Sure, yeah. And so is that one thing I always remember, roughly 80% of cholesterol is made through your intestine and liver, and 20% is responsive to dietary changes. There's a difference between what is a normal, and normal often leads to heart disease, and what an ideal cholesterol is, and we'll talk about that. I always remember this number. You heard the word 911. I have number 311. We'll explain that as time goes on. So we met and we got your cholesterol down, and you combine diet and lifestyle changes, and you're also training your brain too as well.
That's right.
Next slide, please.
And that with exercise also helps.
Yeah, so to me, there's lots of fronts. So, diet and exercising, and there's different forms of exercise. The traditional one is people just walk, and that's a good starting point. And we'll talk about, resistance training, muscle mass loss, balance training, and also VO2 max and intense training for fitness too as well. Cholesterol, some people's minds, a four-letter word. This is one of the areas we have the most impact, and there's anyways, let's tell us more. Let's learn more about cholesterol. Next slide, please. Okay, what's this over here, guys?
So, when Larry first came over to the clinic, he had a total cholesterol level of 4.67 mmol over liter and LDL of 2.57, which, if you look at the range we've given right here, is a little on the high end of the ideal. So closing in on high. So, on the next slide, can you tell us about your experience when taking Lipitor?
So if you go just back one track over here, so if you look at is cholesterol, to most doctors, they wouldn't treat. They would just leave it alone, saying your cholesterol is, better than most people. An average.
But you made us aware, Dr. Curnew, that this was proactive, and that's what we love in life.
Yeah. And we'll talk about this. Okay, keep going, guys. Tell us about your experience with Lipitor.
I just I do the treadmill 3 times a week, and I just felt when I started taking Lipitor that I just didn't have the strength in my legs that I felt I should have. So that's when we said to you that I was not happy with it, and you said, well, let's try something else, and that's worked.
And it was good teamwork. That's right.
Yeah.
So just for your information, Lipitor is a lipid-soluble statin. Crestor or Rosustatin is a water-soluble statin. So their penetrations to the brain and some muscles will be different. And while they both lower LDL cholesterol, they work in the liver predominantly. They have different properties. I like this word Coke versus Pepsi. Some of us are Coke lovers, some of us are Pepsi lovers. In fact, Pepsi and Coke kill the world at this point in time, but that's a different discussion right now. Is that when I was in the Army, we used Coke to actually clean your rifles, and now we drink it. So be careful what you drink. Tell us more, guys.
An interesting aside on this is my aviation medical examiner. I told him that I did not, I wasn't happy with Lipitor, and that we had changed to this. And he said, he agreed. He says the same thing happened to me. So.
But we appreciated Dr. Curnew's flexibility in listening to our feedback, and then you gave us options and still able to achieve the same goals.
Which way do you want to fly? And are you guys going to talk about the mechanism a little bit, or you want me to do that?
Yeah, I could talk about it a little bit. So As far as both Lipitor and Crestor are both they're essentially they're similar drugs. It's the reason we say Pepsi versus Coke is because they're designed for the same purpose, like lowering cholesterol, reducing cardiovascular risk. But they have slightly different characteristics, mainly in how they're processed by the body. Right here, we talked about like a different enzyme metabolizes the drug, and the differences here impact like side effects, potential interactions with other medications, and it's all different to each person. It might interact differently with one person than another. And like you said, the Crestor worked better for you, and in the end, that was the best choice.
Yeah. And great teamwork between patient and doctor.
Next
We've
slide.
always felt that we were a team.
So the Samson trial, I love this trial.
Yeah, I'm just gonna quickly tell everybody. So this, since we're on the topic of Larry having a little bit of an issue with Lipitor at first, just wanted to share everybody about the Samson trial. So this was a small trial but very significant. It took 60 people, and it gave them 3 different interventions. One group, they got 4 bottles of 20 milligrams of atorvastatin or Lipitor. Another group got 4 bottles of placebo, and another 4 empty bottles of air. So what they were trying to do is compare the side effect symptom reports from these groups and see how much of this is based on the act of taking the medication versus how much is it because of the actual medication itself. So go to the next slide. This is just a representation. So they're giving 3 different bottles. They all took them. And at the end, they rated their pain scale. So this was people who had very bad pain, mainly muscle ache pains, and they rated their scores from 1 to 100 each month. At the end of the trial, they compared the symptom score, and the takeaway is actually at the bottom here, that 90% of symptom burdens from statins were elicited by placebo. It's very interesting because when you Google statins, you see a lot of the side effects that comes up on Google. For the average person that hears that, you don't know how much of that is because of the medication. Some doctors would say, when in doubt, it's probably the medication. The risk research turns things upside down a little bit and showed the power of the nocebo effect. If you think you're going to get side effects, you probably will get side effects. And
just
go ahead.
And just to correct that, I never had muscle pain. I just felt some weakness in my muscle. I didn't feel I had the strength that I had before.
Yeah, and actually, you're completely right. It can be a little bit different from person to person. Absolutely. Some people a little bit muscle fatigue, muscle pains, aches. Yeah.
And if a different brand, a different type works, we accomplish the same goal.
Absolutely. Again, there are different medications for lipid therapy to lower your cholesterol. These are the 2 most important ones, the common ones. There's different other classes of statins as well. The older ones, the ones we use most commonly are Lipitor and Crestor. Absolutely. And Dr. Curnew, I know you love this webinar as well. Anybody who wants to learn more about this, please check our statin debate webinar. We talk more about the history of statins, etc., etc. There's also another trial that showed the same thing as the Samson trial, how the nocebo effect is quite significant in predicting who's going to get the side effects and who won't. Quick note on the benefits. I know we just mentioned the benefits,
Actually,
but
just backtrack one more slide again. So this is something that lots of information. Right now we're going through political campaigns in the States. So roughly half the world loves Trump, half the world hates Trump. And you can see how we're polarized and we all get bombarded with different informations. Now, I also learned that websites, Google and things of that nature really have a great influence on our behavior. And I didn't realize this until recently. And in this debate, you're going to actually hear about the Google empire and some of the whistleblowers from Google and talking about their algorithms to actually influence us.
That's absolutely right.
I didn't realize how powerful this is right now. And how we're talking about is the Russian interference, China interference, different areas of this stuff really works. I'm a physician, and when I remember started is that the drug industry would spend $50,000 per physician per year to influence our behavior. Um, that's and so it's we're all very subject to influencers, let's say, and
Larry and I have always thought for ourselves, though, Dr. Curnew, we don't go online to learn facts about this unless we do an awful lot of research. But this debate was totally helped with you when you looked at Larry and I and you said, Larry will live longer if he takes this. The debate was over for us.
And if you start looking at stuff online, you're bombarded with so much information that you can't really make a good decision.
You're right.
Yeah, I think online information has different qualities. So, is that I'm privileged is that at the age of 12 years of age, I decided that I was going to become a doctor. So I've been thinking about this since the age of 12. I'm going to have my 40th class year reunion. One thing, when you go to medical training, you learn to evaluate, scientific good from bad information. So we all have our biases, but we also have our training in this area. Um, One of the things is, Larry and Norma, if I ask you to go flying with me, say no, because uh, uh, most people learn to fly a glider less than 100 flights. I'm going to be approaching 300 flights, and they still won't let me go by myself yet.
You will never wish you had less training.
And so you need to have some grit, and I'm learning from a lot of wonderful people. And by the way, I think you're flying with the wrong type of plane, by the way, because you can, if you're landing and you have a trouble, you can go back up. On a glider. You can't. You're committed to descend. So you only get one chance at this. So yeah, there's a whole planning process behind that. But just kidding around a little bit.
Love it.
If you go back to the Samson trial, this to me reminds me of, remember that little train we grew up that was having trouble climbing that hill. I think I can. I think I can.
I think I can. I think I can. I will.
This trial reminds me about this because what this tells us is that these took 60 people who would say, Dr. Curnew, I will never ever take a cholesterol pill in my life. You made me so sick with this medication. But these people agreed to go into the trial. And they got, again, each patient got a box done multiple times of placebo pills, no pill, and they get an empty box and real pills. They didn't know if they're taking real pills or fake pills. And the act of taking a pill, a fake pill, reproduced 90% of their symptoms. Now, this always brings up a big issue about, how much side effects to tell people. And it reminded me of another trial. This is a trial done in hypertension. So, and it was done by, I forget where it was done. This is a very old trial, 1980s. They took patients who had hypertension, and they weren't told anything about the treatment. And about 3% of people developed sexual dysfunction. And then they told some information about sexual dysfunction, another group of people, and basically 15% of people got problems with sexual dysfunction. Then they talked a lot about sexual dysfunction. Half the people got sexual dysfunction.
The power of suggestion.
Yeah. And I think athletes do this really well. Sports psychology. At one time, Canada, I always used to say, it was just we apologize for everything. Now I remember during the Calgary Olympics, is win the podium was the theme. And so that belief system. So beliefs are very strong. So we have to have the belief in our own wisdom, but we also have to be smart enough to know when we got this wrong. So let's keep moving forward. So to me, this is very powerful information. The Samson trial was done about 3 times. And the reason why statins work so well, tell us more about why this is a game changer.
Here is the why, actually. If you look on the left, it says that for every 1 millimole per liter reduction in LDL cholesterol, you get, so that's for every one, so from 4 to 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 1, approximately you get a 23% reduction in major vascular events, heart attacks, and 20 to 25% in heart attacks and strokes combined. So those are excellent numbers, and that's the big why. And the other thing is, I'm not sure what the time frame of this specific trial was, but the earlier you start and the longer you take, the benefits are going to multiply. Dr. Curnew, you mentioned Warren Buffett and his message of compound interest. This is the best example of that. He's in the world of finance, world of lipidology and lowering lipids, but the same idea still applies. The earlier you start, the better, and the longer you take it, the bigger the benefits.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at Larry's cholesterol. What year did you start the cholesterol pill, Larry? I got around.
Oh, probably 3 years ago.
No, it would be
Yeah.
more than
More
that.
than that.
You'd have the medical records,
Yeah, I got your
honestly.
record. So I got to tell you. So I have. I'm looking at LDL cholesterol, lousy cholesterol. Back in 2020, it's 2.4, and in 22, it's 2.5. And your LDL cholesterol now is down to about 1.3 right now. So let's say we took a good point off your cholesterol there. So that we went from, let's say, 2.5 to 1.5. And over a period of 5 years, if you take the medication, you lower your risk by about 20%. That's
Which is
remarkable.
fantastic.
Yeah. So you can say is that, getting rid of 20% of heart attacks and strokes over a period of 5 years is pretty impressive. And this occurs with the 3-1-1 rules. Tell us more about the 3-1-1 rule.
Yeah, I was actually gonna have you talk about it, but since you mentioned,
All right. I'll
sure,
talk
go
about
ahead,
it.
go ahead. I think you're the creator, the inventor. Go ahead.
Okay, so I always go from 911. So in my earlier days, I was the 911 doctor. So I was working in the hospital in the internal medicine ward and the in the coronary care unit, and people would call 911, come to the hospital, and thank me profusely for treating their heart attack. Then I learned that 80% of heart attacks and strokes are potentially preventable. And why are people thanking me for failed prevention? And so now I have the rule 3-1-1. So the ideal cholesterol parameter, total cholesterol less than 3, LDL lousy cholesterol less than 1, HDL healthy cholesterol greater than 1, triglyceride is a different fat that causes atherosclerosis with remnant particles should be less than 1. So that's the ideal lipid team you should think about. You have to decide if you want ideal, you want good, or you want average. Average leads to too many heart attacks. Clinical trials, by and large, go for about 5 years. So that's why we use scientific evidence, but we have to talk about lifetime risk of disease. So a 1 millimole reduction of LDL cholesterol over 5 years translates to reduction of 20% reduction in cardiovascular disease. A 1 millimole reduction of LDL cholesterol over lifetime translates to a 50% reduction in risk. So lower, longer is better. I know if you're dead, we can't, if I crash the plane, I can't resurface the plane. So sometimes it's too late. So that's why is that you don't want to wait to treat at this stage. You want to really work hard at this. So I think this is something to focus in on and people to think about. Next slide, please. All right, here we go. Tell us more about
Yeah,
this.
quick reminder of this. When we mention cholesterol or cholesterol pills, we hear this argument a lot. Actually, maybe two of them. The first one is that how much of it is made by the diet, how much of it can you control with diet, saturated fat, meat products, and how much of it is made by your liver. In most people, this is a generalization, 80%, up to 80% is made by your liver. 20% diet. So that's very important to mention. And the other question people have is if cholesterol is so important, so the 25% figure right here can be a little bit misleading. The 25% of your cholesterol is in your brain, okay? That if I lower cholesterol too much, would that cause any issues with my brain? The answer is no. All the cells in your body make their own cholesterol, except red blood cells, because they don't have a nuclei. And the lipoproteins have a different function in the body. So, and we also have very good evidence that statins actually reduce dementia risk, Alzheimer's risk. And having high cholesterol is actually one of the predictors of developing dementia later in life. So just wanted to put this to bed. Dr. Curnew, if you have anything to add.
So this is quite an important study. So we say on average is that 20% of diet is amenable to lifestyle changes. Now that's the average, but there's huge variations, huge exceptions to this. And there's been a lot of plant-based eaters, and if you're a hyperabsorber of cholesterol, especially and then you can't eat any eggs with others. So it is variable, but it's a good ballpark figure. Brain wants cholesterol, and you're born with an LDL cholesterol hovering around 1 or less, and your brain develops very, very nicely. So I don't know why you want your cholesterol to go higher as time goes on. And it's truly amazing. The brain has its own way of taking care of cholesterol. It's not dependent on what your blood serum levels are. Now, there's one thing that you said that I think may be a true fact is that if you lower cholesterol too much, you can actually, in some studies, show an increased risk of hemorrhagic strokes. That's a bleed inside your head. That's best treated with hypertension control. So I don't really worry very much about that. I treat blood pressure, and if people have these aneurysms in the brain, I think that a little bit differently. But by and large, I'm not particularly worried about getting your cholesterol too low. Is that I worry about too much heart disease and stroke. Next slide, please. Wonderful slide.
This one is in line with the same. You mentioned that when you're born, the cholesterol that you have is quite low, and in fact, babies who need the most amount of cholesterol, they have the lowest cholesterol, and there's no issues in their development, in their brain development. What you see on the left side is looking at a 32-year-old female, and on the right you see the percentage of atherosclerosis in different age groups, and then by the age of 20 to 29, so that's our age group, or less than 20, 37% already have subclinical atherosclerosis. And then you go up, and the numbers go up, but the key takeaway is that it starts young, and if you want to prevent it, you have to start early. Again, Dr. Curnew said that some doctors don't want to do this. Maybe there's some hesitancy for different reasons, but I think most cardiologists and lipidologists agree with the sentiment that the lower, the better for longer.
Yeah, so it's quite impressive. Look at this. If you make it to 50 years or greater, do you have heart disease? 85% of people have heart disease. Do I have wrinkles and gray hair? Yeah. Do I have heart disease? Yeah. So the answer is it's the degree of atherosclerosis that counts. The plaques that will rupture over time. In your 20s, look at this. Almost 40%, between 25 to 40% of people have atherosclerosis to some degree. It doesn't mean you're going to die from a heart attack at this point in time, but there's already wear and tear in your vessels. And so it is to me is to know your risk, and one thing is to know your family history. So, for instance, my dad had his bypass at 50 years of age. Larry, do you have heart disease in your family?
No,
No.
not till 90.
No.
So you have longevity in your family. So your risk of having your cholesterol is not as high as mine. You have a good LP little a. Your overall risk is lower than I have a very high LP little a. I have a lot more heart disease than you do at this stage in life. But we're all at risk for heart disease. And we're saying that one stupid pill a day plus a lot of good lifestyle changes is lowering your risk by 20%. Now we can't stop everything, but you know what?
That's right.
I'll take that. And look at this. Is that
And
look at
and our
blackberry.
only suggestion for anybody who is learning from this is that if Lipitor, if they are having serious issues with it, just come to you and ask for a different brand and try.
Well, there's different cocktails, combinations.
That's right.
Many ways of doing this. And so roughly we know that roughly 70% of people who can't take standard medications for lipids, we can do something. Then we have these other drugs called PCSK9 drugs that are very effective but very expensive. So there are ways of doing things. And now I'll also say if you eliminate LDL cholesterol, you still have atherosclerosis. So this one contributes immensely to this process because the start of atherosclerosis is usually LDL cholesterol gets into the walls of the blood vessels. It oxidizes, transforms, and leads to atherosclerotic plaque. And there's a guy called Valentin Fuster. I'm not sure if we're going to talk about this today or not, but let's talk about this. Tell us more about this. There you go.
There we go.
Perfect.
Perfect timing, Dr. Curnew. So there's a study that's being I'm not sure when it started, but I think relatively recently. It's going to run for 5 years. They're looking at a very specific population that I don't think anybody has looked at in the past, at least not in this degree. They're looking at me, people like me. I'm 23 years of age. They're looking at 20 to 39-year-olds, 20 to 40, and they're looking to see if they can have something called primary prevention, which is avoid the first heart attack by three things: lowering LDL cholesterol below 1.81. In American values, it is 70, translates to 1.81. Lowering blood pressure in these subjects, and controlling their blood sugar values. So if they have prediabetes, making sure they don't. So treating those three combined, they're trying to see if they can prevent the first heart attack. And so this is quite a unique study. And the point of it is that in young adults, modifiable risk factors, even when at conventional target levels, so when you have your blood values, there's a normal range that the lab gives you. And many people are misguided by that because the value it gives you is average, and the average is way too high than the ideal. And that's what this study is trying to see, that even in those people, if you control for these risk factors early on, you can prevent heart attacks. So it's quite a unique study. Dr. Curnew, if you have any other information about it, feel free to share us.
I first met Dr. Valentin Fuster when I was a young whippersnapper of a resident in cardiology. He impressed me tremendously back then, and he's just an amazing guy. And basically, he talks about the burden of atherosclerosis, but basically what he's using is using 3D ultrasound technology. They're going to image plaques. They're going to image it in the different parts of your body. And they're looking at progression of atherosclerosis. So they're not really going to treat a bunch of 20-year-olds to prevent a heart attack at this point in time, because most 20-year-olds won't have heart attacks. What you'll do is that you'll look at the burden of atherosclerotic plaque by getting LDL cholesterol to much lower values. And I think this is wonderful. And again, we already know that in your 20s, somewhere between 20 to 40% of people already have atherosclerotic plaque. So they're going to actually image it, look at it, and study it in a systematic way. So I think this is wonderful. And my only wish is that I started treating my cholesterol when I was 20 years of age with medications. I'm now 65. I have 3-vessel coronary artery disease. I have a calcium score of 330. And I've been quite attentive to my cholesterol with high doses. I guess remember what Warren Buffett would say is that if you're at 25 years of age and you start putting money into your retirement and you're compounding at 6% and you wait to 10 years later to age of 35, by the age of 65, you have twice as much savings in your RSP by starting 10 years earlier. So the same amount of money started 10 years earlier has double the savings when you retire. And the same thing with your health. You're already starting with plaque buildup in your 20s and probably even earlier than that. So why do you want to wait till it's really the 911 rules? So many times people would thank me for treating their heart attacks, and I get that smile on my face, but also said, shit, this could have been prevented or at least delayed. And I wish I was smart enough to predict who's going to have a heart attack or when. I can basically take a good guess, but I can't be sure. But we can stack the odds in your favor. And
That's
you know,
right.
throughout my career, the mortality from heart disease is more than half. So that's and so that's pretty remarkable. And the vast reasons for that is that we treat heart attacks better. We also mistreated heart disease, and we did too many angioplasties for people who have stable blocked arteries. But the prevention mode, this cholesterol manipulation, blood pressure control, lifestyle changes. And one of the things that I failed to recognize until recently is your muscle mass, your VO2 max, your fitness levels are a tremendous amount of predictors. One thing we should do at the end is do push-ups. I'll just say this: if you look at a person, if you compare someone who can do more than 40 push-ups all at once, compared to someone who can do less than 10, there is basically a reduction in mortality of 90%. Now that's flawed data, but just tells the power of being adding exercise to your regimen. We'll
And
talk
just
about
jumping ahead a little bit, Dr. Curnew, we found one of your recent videos really inspirational, the one where your people demonstrate push-ups and other good exercises. And we found that really motivational. Your videos are excellent on YouTube.
Oh, thank you. And one of the things I'm starting to do is that is weightlifting the last year or so. And my story about, you have a picture of me weightlifting in there somewhere? Is
Yep,
that
I'll put it on. Go ahead. Keep speaking.
all right? So what happened is that both my parents had some dementing illnesses. My brother has some problems with memory, cognition, and falls. And so I started basically lifting weights a year ago. And you should do too as well. And Dr. Attia, a longevity expert, saying if you're not prepared to lift heavy weights, don't be prepared to age well. And you know, I do this probably 2 to 4 times a week, and it's fun now. And one of the things that include my weightlifting is that doing it with the Bee Gees. You know, remember the Bee Gees? When their music
The
is playing.
proper music helps.
Oh, that makes a difference. Yeah, the right song, lifting weights, you can do an extra couple sets.
And Larry and I use kettlebells and dumbbells too.
Right.
Much similar thing. It all helps.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's go back here. So I'm rambling a little bit. I gotta stop rambling. Let's go back to our something says. Tell us more about this. So, and my plea to everybody is you gotta think about this. You gotta incorporate this into your lives. Um, um, one of the flaw in this in this picture here is that juice is basically sugared water. It causes rapid rises in blood sugar, so eat the orange. um, I'm a big fan of real food, and if you and I'm trying to avoid liquid calories, but
And if we have any kind of craving for any kind of sweet drink, I love to slice some strawberries or orange sections in a gallon of cold water.
nice.
And we love that. It just helps give it a little tiny bit of flavor, and there's not the sugar.
Perfect. All right, tell us more.
All right, so we wanted to ask you, Larry, what healthy behaviors have you incorporated into your life?
She's asking you what healthy behaviors that you've got.
Well,
Exercise.
we keep active, very active, especially in the summer, and and because we have a cottage up north, and we end up cutting grass at both cottages and fishing and
we garden and we
and
hike
garden.
and play
Yeah,
with grandkids, and we divide your exercise regime into two things: exercise, which we sort of had a schedule for, but then we try and get in as much NEAT as we can. And there's a technical name for NEAT, but we've shortened it to non-exercise active time. And we try and park farther away from stores, don't we, Larry?
Yes, yeah.
And take stairs instead of elevators. And so NEAT to us is non-exercise active time that we combine with exercise.
Go ahead, Faiza.
Well, we're maintaining our weight with exercise and diet.
And it doesn't even seem anything. It's not, none of a chore now. In fact, Larry's still losing a pound every now and again.
Yes.
Just because we've gotten into the routine of exercise, lots of active time, and healthy eating, and you get off sugar and he doesn't even crave it anymore. It's fantastic.
Low salt and low sugar.
That's right.
And
proper cooking methods.
That's right. And in the wintertime, you tend to be less active, so that's when we spend more time on the treadmill.
And
to
with
make up
resistance
for it.
training. That's right.
Backtrack a slide there. So tell me about some of these pictures here.
Well, the one on the upper right is pretty self-explanatory. That's us flying in total cloud with the airplane. The one on the left is when we last spring We were flying our own airplane into Las Vegas, and that's going right along the Grand Canyon.
And the geographic picture there.
Yeah.
And then on the bottom right, those are pictures of hikes we take on our flying trips. But then explain what you're doing in the welding one.
In the picture in the bottom, with I'm training welders for. We train welders from all over Canada for aerospace welding, and that's in our own shop where we take two students in at a time and take them through the whole process with all the paper. Norma goes through all the paperwork that's required to do aerospace welding, and I do the practical.
It's a 3-day course, and they're already aircraft maintenance engineers before they come to us. So it's helping them specialize in the niche market that we still work at with our business, and we still love the challenge.
On the left bottom, that's me in Arizona.
Yep.
In a park where we went for a walk among the cacti
and the top left
yeah.
is our daughter and I, and you took the picture when we were hiking, and that
That's
one's in Halton. We have a Halton Park Pass, and that was in Rattlesnake Park.
Our daughter also has her pilot's license.
And she's really into fitness. And team, I think family, that when we all do it, it pulls everyone along and everyone gets interested. It's easier. We don't go to groups, we don't go to clubs, we don't go to gyms, but we all motivate each other. And that's a big part of it, because if you have someone to do it with, it's way easier to never miss, to keep active.
Nice.
Oh, and there's one of your fishing pictures, Larry.
Yes, we our lake up north is pristine. You can actually drink the water out of it. So we eat a lot of fish out of that lake. And then the other ones, Norma.
That's at the Cup and Saucer Trail on Manitoulin Island, where our both of those left ones are on Manitoulin Island. And our daughter and Larry and I were hiking on that. And I think I'd handed my phone down to Larry, so he took a picture of me climbing down. But we just love being active. It's really something to be out in nature. But a big part of Larry's program, I think, is healthy eating. And I've made a science of this for a long time. We have a great garden that Larry helps me with. And our plates are so many vegetables on, and we eat a lot of seafood. That bottom one is oven roasted, like oven baked salmon with just a bit of spice on top. And then that's red cabbage and butternut squash mashed from our garden and salad. But I try to use color and texture to make our plates interesting. That top one of the things that Larry gave up was mashed potatoes with butter. His mom used to love to cook mashed potatoes with a lot of butter on them, and that's mashed cauliflower with a little bit of low-fat cream cheese to make it creamy, and that's so good. Mashed cauliflower is such a nice substitute. Whenever possible, I try and substitute things so that you don't get as many calories, but you still get the enjoyment, because eating should be pleasurable. Instead of Larry having a big piece of lasagna on a plate, I love to make lasagna soup. Or chicken wings, instead of him having a big plate of chicken wings, I love to make a beautiful salad, put some strips of chicken breast on top, and then I put some hot sauce on the chicken, and it tastes like chicken wings, but I've really healthied it up.
And Norma makes pasta out of
zucchini. That's right.
Zucchini, and you can't tell it from the regular pasta, but it's so much healthier.
It is. I love that. It's I have a spiralizer, so I make a tomato sauce with a ton of vegetables in it, and then just about 2 or 3 minutes before we're going to eat it, I put in the spiralized strips of zucchini out of my garden, or if mine are done, then I buy them at a farmer's market. Toss them in and put it in our pasta bowl with just a tiny sprinkling of Parmesan cheese, and it's fantastic. And it's far healthier. So that's what I love to do, to take things that we love, still be able to enjoy them, but in a modified way, so it's not heavy with calories.
Beautiful. Next slide, please. I'm coming for dinner.
Absolutely. You're invited anytime. And I make all our own whole grain sourdough bread too, have for 40 or 50 years.
Norma, just to interject, next time we have a healthy eating event in the clinic. If you can come, that would be amazing. If you can bring us a sample, that would be fantastic.
Will do.
I mean, we have beautiful and wonderful chefs that bring one of the volunteers. She's always wonderful with the salads
Well,
she
I don't
makes.
profess to be a chef,
No,
but
I know
I
she's
say
not a
that,
chef either, but she's wonderful at it. So anything
and
you're
I say the
excellent in,
kitchen
definitely
is
share.
my playroom. It's my therapy. It's everything. And if you love it, you tend to try and do it well.
So one thing I'll encourage people to do is just to bring healthy food to friends, neighbors, doctors' offices, places everywhere, because is that go back that's wonderful. You can't get this food at the restaurant. I wish you can go to the restaurant and get the
Oh,
get
you know what? We do not eat at restaurants if we can help it. Even when we're traveling, I often try and get a hotel with a kitchen, and I'll go to the local grocery store because restaurant food I find has too much fat, too much salt for Larry and I. Just one more thing on what you just said, Dr. Curnew, when you said always try and bring healthy food to your friends, a little trick that people might want to take up on, something I've done for years. If we go to friends and a hostess gift is appropriate, instead of the traditional old bottle of red wine or white wine, I like to take a special bottle of balsamic vinegar or a bottle of olive oil instead. And people really appreciate that. Meanwhile, you've given them a nudge to healthy it up a bit.
Nice. I like that idea.
It really surprises people and they like it.
So what are the strategies that help you on your weight loss journey? I think the most important one is marrying Norma.
I think you're absolutely right. But
That was 52 years ago. I don't think he was thinking about healthy food then, but he did know I was off a farm and I was doing healthy baking for him even when we dated.
yeah, she showed baking at fairs and everything. But at any rate, my thoughts are when you want to lose weight, you don't try to do it all at once. You try to work towards it, and every time you get on the scale, then you pound less. It feels good, and you don't have to try to lose 30 pounds in a month,
And we would try and encourage people to not look at those awful media representations. They're all over the internet, they're in magazines, wherever, where they'll show a before and after and some magic drug or pill or something. And there is no magic way. If you do a healthier lifestyle, it doesn't even seem like a change, does it, Larry?
That's
like
right.
it's just the new norm, and it would bother us to do anything but. If we don't do our exercising or our activities, or if we don't eat healthy now, neither one of us would feel good about it.
No,
It's become routine. So little successes, I think, are the key. Don't look for big results, look for little results, and let yourself feel good about every little change that you make that's good, because you're going the same direction. It's all directional.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. You just mentioned the mindset, right? The mindset of appreciate the small wins. And then
Exactly.
You mentioned picking small goals, achievable goals. We mentioned SMART goals in the past in some of our webinars, making it specific, measurable. But the key takeaway from SMART goals is that it's simple and doable for that person. It seems like you just give us an example.
Exactly.
That's a mindset.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to allow yourself to feel good about it.
Yeah, so this is I want to thank all the wonderful crew at SOSA. This is a flying club, just just about 11 kilometers from where I live, and a wonderful group of people. Everybody who works or goes to that place, it's fully, you have to volunteer your time. And the beauty of a glider plane is once you get pulled up, you can either get winched up, or you get like a slingshot sent up into to the sky for 1,000 feet, or you can get behind a plane and pulls you to 2 to 3,000 feet. And the favorite thing, what I love about gliding is is getting into a thermal. So we know there's pockets of rising air. If you look at birds that are circling, um, they're in a hot air. So basically, sunlight hits the ground, let's say, bounces back up, and gives you pockets and forms certain clouds that you use for clues. So you look at the ground for clues. So let's say I don't know, a parking lot, or cars putting off their admission. They provide lift, or farmers in their field plowing their fields can give lift to us gliders, and you can see that I'm the guy in the front there, and yours the guy in the back, and many others. Is that they won't let me fly by myself, and um, in one sense I can be a very frustrating student because um, they don't know what to do with me at first, and but I'm I'm progressing very, very slowly, and I am progressing. And if will I ever get to fly or not, I don't know, but I'm certainly going to enjoy that. My favorite thing right now is thermaling, and when you get into thermal, um, I'm not bad at thermaling. I'm not very good at landing the plane. I'm better at if I can just get up there and stay up there, that'd be good.
Dr. Curnew, as you're explaining your love for the thermals there, the analogy strikes me that when you found those thermals and go upwards and upwards in life and experience the thrill of it, isn't that what we're all encouraging people to do with healthy lifestyle changes? It's like catching the thermals in your glider because you just keep feeling better and better about yourself. You feel better. Yeah, you can move better. And it's just like catching the thermals if you start the healthier life.
And around thermals, there's always sink. When air goes up, it has to go down somewhere. So you
Yep.
can get stuck, you can get stuck in air that that goes down more. And it's funny, one of the trainers just said, "I'm very good at thermaling in sink," which is or trying to. But
And
to really, I think it's about the journey, and you're going to have your ups and downs. And I will
And you're
get
challenging yourself, which is so
uh,
important.
and
and
so yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
the neat thing about flying or gliding is when you're up there, you have to pretty much concentrate on that. You can't be thinking of other things. And that's neat to just get your mind focused on one thing.
And that lowers anyone's stress too.
Yeah. And I think I caused stress for some of the people there behind me, and will they do the right thing or wrong thing? Will they take over or not? And
Yeah,
but
but I've heard of a study where some types of stress is actually good because
That's right.
as long as the stress you come to the end of it and you neutralize it, it's good. If you look at the presidents of the United States who's under more stress than them, and they have a history of living a very long, healthy life.
If you take the ones that were
Yeah.
assassinated out of the
Yeah, well,
equation. Yeah.
take the bullets away.
Yes.
yeah, no, I
Anyway,
think
good for you.
to me this is like it's one of the ways to delay dementia is to actually put new things into your brain. So
Oh,
learning
we
new,
do it every day.
yeah, and part of this thing about gliding will hopefully help delay my dementia. You can argue if I'm demented already or not, but it
You could argue that for all of us.
We all have those days.
so what we can tell us about the slide here.
You just mentioned the dementia. I just thought it's probably a good time to just quickly mention this. Anybody wondering what the risk factors are? Here it is. This is actually interestingly on the Government of Canada website. Very interesting. The source of it is a Landslip Commission report. Very, very credible. But if you quickly look, lower levels of education, 60% likelihood. Hearing loss in midlife. Traumatic brain injury, concussions. So people play sports. People who ride bicycles and motorcycles, having the helmet on. Hypertension, obesity, alcohol use, heavy alcohol use, not mild, has not shown association. Depression is one of them. Smoking, 60%. Depression is 90%. Maybe we don't want to read too much in the numbers, but you can just see some of the factors. Social isolation, that's part of the cognitive aspect that you just mentioned. Diabetes, physical activity, inactivity, and air pollution. Again, these are some of modifiable, some not. I think most are. Some of them are genetic, like depression, but to some degree modifiable. I just wanted to mention this while you mentioned cognitive
Yeah, so
health, Dr. Curnew.
kind of interesting is that I group dimensions into two categories. One is a genetic related process, and those are usually people who develop dementias in their 40s to 50s. Those are very young people. But the characteristic of older dementia is the summation of risk factors that damage brain. And to me now, it's not just a lot of alcohol; it's a little bit of alcohol that unfortunately contributes to risk right now. So there's many things you can do, and we'll talk about that right now. But one of the things is
But
learning new skills. and
Bef-
not being isolated. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Before we leave this slide, though, I've got to tell you, nothing can be simplified that much. I've got to point out the first two lower levels of education. Larry has a grade 8 formal education, but since we've been married and even before, he's never stopped learning. He is always reading physics and chemistry books. He's never ever stopped. So it's not formal education. Your education doesn't have to be in a classroom. So I disagree with the simplification of that. It's way too simply stated. Hearing loss, the next one. Larry got hearing aids. He's on his third set now. They're very high end hearing aids when you were 60. And he got them at the very first sign of hearing loss. And your hearing is perfect now, Larry, with these. They're Scandinavian hearing aids. And I believe that a person's brain does shut down, but hearing loss is totally treatable for most conditions. So if anybody is reading this, please don't be discouraged by those top two numbers, because you can blow those right off the paper.
Hearing loss, what they found out when they tested me for hearing was the fact that I was deficient in some frequencies. So these hearing aids are able to help just the frequencies that I need help with. And because people tend to shut down if they're in a group and they can't hear what's going on, they have a tendency to shut down. And I think that's part of the problem.
Exactly. And the technology that's available today for hearing aids, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
They're so tiny, and they're Bluetooth compatible. They're noise discriminating for in a crowd. They're phenomenal.
And that can lead to depression also if you can't hear.
That's right. So the chart isn't quite as solid. It's more complex. There's stuff you can do.
Yes.
But what I love about you guys is what I call grit. We have a good video about this. So finding new solutions. So
Yes.
identify an obstacle and you overcome it, and not to give up. So you just show that over and over again. And I think one of the things too, surround yourself with people that can make you better, that you can make better. It's just there's certain relationships
Exactly.
that are poisonous that make you worse, and other relationships that make you stronger. You make other people stronger. So
we love positive energy people, and we love people with different hobbies and skills, and we learn from each other all the time with our social activities.
And we socialize with people that are a lot different from us. We're basically agricultural people, but we like to associate with people who have different views and different things, different situations than us.
And we always play games when visiting with people. We love learning new card games. We play a lot of cribbage and euchre, but we also love any new game. So again, we keep challenging ourselves.
Nice. Keep that growth mindset. Yeah, learn new things. Let's go back to some other stuff there. We got the weight under control. We got the cholesterol under control. We got all the we can hear now. We eat well. We're exercising. We're building muscle. Holy cow, that's great. And we're in the sky flying.
Okay, so we wanted to share some key takeaways for that you should consider when choosing a weight loss program. So the first one being diets should be based on a patient's preference and health status. The second one, adherence is the strongest predictor for weight loss. And then lastly, dietary quality is as important as caloric intake. So basically just choose what's easiest for you.
And try different diets. Try different things.
And prepare as much of it as you can of yourself, because the processed food in stores, people should stay away from it. It's so rewarding to take a butternut squash, roast it, and make that into a big slow cooker or pot of butternut squash soup. I typically do that on a weekend. And then on a weeknight when we're busy, we can have salad and a beautiful bowl of that with a dollop of Greek yogurt and a few chopped pecans on top. And it's ready in no time, but it's healthy and it looks so good.
Okay, so moving on, we wanted to talk about some strategies for weight loss. So this study shows that basically there were two groups. One that used time restricted eating. So that's a type of intermittent fasting that involves limiting the hours for eating to a specific number of hours per day. So that group lost 3.56% of their body weight, in 6 months, and the other group was told to just reduce their daily calorie intake. And so what they found was that basically they found that there was no significant weight loss between the two groups there.
And I think just to correct, I think it's because adherence is a difference here, right? So I think it's easier for people to consume less calories if you eat in 8 hours. But if you just attempt to say, I will eat 200, 300, 500 less calories a day, most people get it wrong. If you just count it that way, some people can do it. But some people get it wrong and you end up not losing a lot of weight or an insignificant amount. I think that's what this study shows. But the takeaway is do what works for you, just like how the previous slide mentioned. Yeah. Thanks, Vanessa.
And so with the step 1 trial results, participants with obesity lost about 15% of body weight in comparison to the placebo during those 12 months there.
Again, this is just one of the other tools in the toolbox. Just wanted to quickly share. Intermittent fasting was one for a lot of people right now. It's a semaglutide, brand name Ozempic for a lot of people that they're using for weight loss. Again, just a quick, anybody who is interested in Ozempic, we have a very wonderful presentation on Ozempic on our channel. You can search up Dr. Curnew's name and Ozempic, and you'll see that webinar as well. All right.
Well, just go back to about unrestricted eating. It's like so there's a meta-analysis of looking at that. So on people who restrict their times of eating, on average eats 500 less calories. So that's a little thing. Now, personally, I'm a nighttime eater, and I wish I wasn't. But what I've done in the last little while that I'm really quite impressed with this is that I'm going to eat again. And I'm going to stop eating sometime tonight, somewhere between 10 and midnight. And I'm not going to try to eat until sometime tomorrow afternoon time. And I find that in the morning time, I'm going to go out to exercise. I'm going to play some squash, or I'm going to lift some weights, that you're going to see this over here. I'm going to drink a lot of coffee. I feel energized. And there's talk about by decreasing the time, you give your body time to repair itself, regenerate itself, decrease inflammation. I feel more energized by not when I'm in the fasting state, and it makes it helps a little bit. So it's not like changes everything, but I found that really, really powerful for myself there. I don't know, Norma and Larry, did you ever try restricting your calories at different times of day? Or do you have to do that at all, or not particularly?
No, that doesn't work for us, but we I make steel cut oats in the morning, and I add some walnuts to it, and we just eat blueberries and cinnamon on it, and a little bit of skim or 2% milk. And we find that starts our day. We don't even get hungry by noon. And if we don't have those oats in the morning, my dad used to joke that racehorses were fed oats before the race. So that would give you a good start to the day. I guess it depends what somebody likes for breakfast. And there's no right or wrong with healthy eating. What works for one person won't work for another. But I think the key to success is find something that works for your family unit and get good at it. Make it attractive, make it healthy, and stick with it, and just try and keep tweaking little ways to keep it healthier. But no, Larry and I aren't into fasting. We enjoy food too much, but we try and keep it healthy.
All right. It seems like you focus more on the quality, from what I heard, than the portion.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So you just eat good food, and kind of that takes care of the rest a little bit for some people. Although if it's too good, maybe you eat too much.
It's more rewarding when you look at the colors and the taste of fresh vegetables that are just steamed or not overly cooked or else fresh. And then we eat a lot of seafood that we've caught ourselves on Manitoulin. But when you have that with some lemon juice, it's more satisfying. Processed food, I think the manufacturers kind of mess with stuff and put so much sugar and salt and fat in there that it makes it addictive. But when you stick to real quality food that's natural, it's more satisfying.
When you see the lineups at fast food restaurants and takeouts, so people don't even have to get out of their car to get it. I mean, that kind of tells you that there is a bit of a problem there.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, it's become expedient, and that's part of the reason. On this slide, I know we just mentioned muscle mass. I think about 20 minutes ago. Just wanted to show this slides again to anybody. Very powerful numbers. That by decade you lose a lot of muscle mass. I think the memorable quote that Dr. Curnew shares is that between the ages of 30 and 70 you lose almost half of your muscle mass. And when you think about muscle mass, it's not just how much you have, it's also the strength. Obviously, those two are very correlated. But you can see that even quick periods of inactivity. So if you end up hospitalized, let's say you have a fall, anybody, and you're in the ICU or just hospitalized for anything, you're in bed, you have 2% muscle loss per day. And the reason we shared this is that most people, yes, part of the muscle mass loss is gradual over the decades, but for a lot of people, these slow periods of abrupt muscle loss by being inactive and injury, it puts them quite far behind. Dr. Tia, that Dr. Curnew mentioned, he shares a lot about this, that you have to be careful of not getting injured. Now, that's not reason to not exercise, but you just have to make sure. Fall prevention is one of the biggest reasons people make a fall.
Exactly, and we try and work smart when we're working. That's exactly it.
Yeah, and I was going to ask Norma and Larry, have you guys done any strength training in the past or currently? Are you working on this right now?
We always do the standing on one foot for balance training.
Balance training, okay.
Yep, and we do our kettlebells and dumbbells for muscle mass, and then just walking up hills, stairs, all kinds of things like that.
I also do some modified chin-ups, and I do push-ups, modified, not
like Dr. Curnew's video. That's the one I said was so good on YouTube.
Yeah, we're gonna end up doing some tonight. If you guys want to join us, absolutely, please do so. We just mentioned kettlebells. Just wanted to share this. I really love this channel. You can see they do it easy mode, and if anybody can do this at home, you don't necessarily need to go to the gym to maintain your strength and muscle mass. Just 2 water bottles, and 2 water bottles or weight, and you can just have these follow along videos. We have some as well on our channel. You can also look at their channel. I'll put in the description, but you can just see some of the exercises they do. I'm just quickly showing them. It is very easy to do, and
we have a similar video from another girl that in the Niagara Peninsula that got us trained with kettlebells, and it's fun to do, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time.
Absolutely. And these follow along videos, most people have a laptop at home, an iPad, a TV, a smart TV, and you can put this on and go with it. In fact, I made my mom do this today. That's why I include this in the presentation today.
That's awesome.
2 of these weights, and she hasn't been doing this for a long time. In fact, she went to a body balance class, got injured, and she stopped in the past few months. So trying to reintroduce it back with these follow along videos. Good. Yeah. Again, anybody try this at home. For young people listening, make your parents do it and go from there.
Yep, and hopefully, you know what, sometimes it's the parents make the kids do it too, or inspire them, not make. But we use 10-pound kettlebells, and we love it.
And when I say young people, and I'm not just talking about myself, young people who, you might be in your 60s and 70s, and your parents are in their 80s and 90s, you can make them pick something small and do. And it's not much about building muscle, it's more about keeping the strength, and that's the most important thing. So let's say they're about to fall, they can catch themselves on the handrail, and that prevents a fall. Just a few weeks of again, I don't want to make promises that a few weeks will make somebody stronger, but that's step 1. That's what you can do.
But it's weights. Like I said before, it becomes a routine. I think the mantra is if you do it for 3 weeks, it becomes a routine. And so entice them to do it for 3 weeks. And after that, they won't feel good if they don't do it.
Yeah. I remember Peter Attia shared something that if somebody has not lifted weights in their life, there's probably a reason. So if you're start off very small. Sometimes even without weights, just do the motion with your arms, learn it, enjoy it, and once you know you can keep going and it's easier for you to do, then pick up weights and slowly introduce some more resistance over time. But it's something that everybody has to do if you want to age well. It's not just about living longer, right? It's about health span. It's about
it's the quality.
It's the quality, exactly. Just like how yourselves right now, you're still keeping active. And a lot of people in the last decade of life, last decade and a half, they can't live fulfilling lives because of that physical immobility. So it's quite important to keep working at that. And what you're seeing here is just the risk of not being fit. Now, this is not about muscle mass. This is about how much oxygen your body consume. So I think, Larry, you did the stress test. I think you have the results here. You did 10.2 back in May 2024. And if you look at this table, I know it's quite small. I'll tell you the results. For the age of, I think you were, how old are you again?
78.
78.
Yeah, so you're the higher range of this on the men's scale at the bottom on the red rectangle. So 10.2 puts you at in the high category. So that's exactly where you want to be. At the age of 78, you can do 10.2 mets. That's wonderful. You want to be above average. I think Dr. Curnew also above average. I don't remember what your mets were. I think it was about 17, something very, very high the last time you did it. But you can see on the left side that the mets you need to do these basic activities, so walk on a flat ground with different speeds, requires a certain level of mets. Essentially, you want to start off as high as possible so that your fall is not as dramatic. So if you're going to crash in a glider, you might as well give yourself the best time, so go as high as possible. I'm not sure if that's technically correct analogy, Dr. Curnew, but same thing with VO2 max. You want to maximize it when you can, when you're young, youngish, and by young I mean 40s, 50s, 60s, so that in your 80s and 90s you can still walk without too much of a breathing. I know that's complicated. We have congestive heart failure that develops, but maximize VO2 max by walking, high intensity inward training. We have videos on that, different ways you can do it. But Norma, you mentioned small activities, non-activity, thermogenesis, and NEAT.
Yes.
That's a very good example. I'm not sure if that's helpful for VO2 max, but maybe for maintenance, it can do something.
Exactly. Just an example on Monday of this week when Larry landed at Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport. We parked the plane. We got a shuttle to our hotel, just dropped the stuff in our room, put on our running shoes, and we hiked the mile and mile and a third to go to the Mall of America, the biggest mall in North America. Larry is not a shopper, but the sweet guy came with me, hiked the mall. We did 3 floors, and then we walked the 1.3 miles back to our hotel and had a lovely evening there. But just that kind of thing keeps us active. For 78 and 72, people must look at us and think, what are you doing? But it's just simple. It's keeping it simple and keeping active.
Yeah, people ask to check your passports for each. Yeah, absolutely. I would imagine. No, absolutely. Step counts. That's another one. I'm not sure if you count that. Do you count that at all? Do you have digital things? Some people find that useful when they count steps. And I know Dr.
Yeah,
Curnew
the
has a
10,000 a
Fitbit.
day.
Yeah, well,
I was
thereabouts.
given one, but I didn't invest in another one because we were over the 10,000. So we keep
okay.
good and active.
You're above average.
Yeah.
Well above average. Okay. Well, keep it going as long as you can. That's the key takeaway.
Oh, we
here.
do.
All right, I'll pass it off to our friend Hisham. Go ahead, take it away for this question.
Yeah. So I know earlier you talked about how now that you're semi-retired, you're still mentoring people about like the welding and teaching them about your niche field. So I just wanted to get a better idea what your past and your current occupation is.
Just to jump in, yeah, we've always done aviation welding, and we've built 2 businesses, 2 corporations over the years. The one was welding and machining and industrial maintenance, and we sold that 6 years ago as an ongoing business and sold that commercial building. And we kept the second corporation, Larry Arms Machine Limited, which is our aviation welding. It's interesting to note, Larry has never had a job. Larry has never worked for anybody. He's always been in business for himself. And I think that's incredible. And that's part of how we think, isn't it, Larry? We're
That's right.
always problem solving. We look for opportunities where other people see problems. And the aircraft welding that we do is a really niche market. And it's quite honestly, it's a skill that Larry's probably number 1 in Canada in. Transport Canada would tell you that. And we looked at our age and we said, our kids are all making more money than us and really happy with their very successful careers. About 7 years ago, we decided we need to start to teach aircraft maintenance engineers our special skills. So I wrote a manual with all of Larry's tips and tricks and all of the intricate little things that have taken us over 40 years to learn. And we make very good money now teaching 2 people at a time from all over Canada your aviation welding. And you do
That's right.
all the training, Larry. But Larry has always done welding and machining. He's self-taught and he knows so much about metallurgy because he's never stopped reading. He's a member of the American Metal Society. He gets new publications every month that tell him about the new metals that bone can grow to, which will be used in medicine down the road for joint replacements and whatnot. Larry's on the leading edge of all of those new alloys of the specialized metals. And you just have always loved it. And Larry still is actively working. We're still doing parts for Airbus, Boeing. We have couriers and whatnot bring us parts from all over Canada. Sometimes we get taxi drivers bringing stuff from Pearson Airport, even in the middle of the night, because our shop is at home now. Those on the picture on the screen that we've got up currently, Larry, that picture on the bottom, those are the 143 Airbus helicopter parts that Larry just did about 3 weeks ago. He's done thousands of those, but 3 weeks ago, we did another 143 of those. And you can just describe what you weld in those.
Yeah, so that's precipitation hardening stainless steel. And those little pins have to be welded on the inside. And then when it's machined, you can't see the weld in there. So the weld has to be perfect. And
the picture on the bottom right is some of the weld coupons. After individuals or candidates take our course, then Transport Canada has certified us to test aviation welders. So they either leave those behind with us after the course, or else if they need to practice some more, they can go back to their location in Canada, ship us their samples, their coupons with their application form when they're done. And then you can tell them what kind of testing you do, Larry.
Yeah, we do metallographic and destructive bend testing, and anything that requires radiography, we have another shop that we contract out to. And so it's a very interesting thing, and we enjoy it. And in fact, right now, today and yesterday, Norma is lining up work for us for when we get back, because people phone and ask when we're going to be available. And
a niche market that we love. And we're not working because we have to. Working because we find it so rewarding and we love it. And it's just part of our happy lifestyle, isn't it?
That's right.
We love being so useful. I got a gorgeous thank you from a company in Calgary today that I had helped them get certification from Transport Canada so that they will be able to do aviation welding. And then they're going to send their individuals to us for our course, and then we will be testing them. So it's very, very gratifying. But I think the fact that Larry had the incentive and the grit to go and learn specialized skills. He started welding when he was about 13 years old, going to seminars, reading everything, because the internet wasn't a thing back then. And you learned by trial and error, and you just kept perfecting and getting good. And now we make very good money at it, and it's rewarding.
Awesome. Thank you so much for telling about that. Now, I also wanted to ask about how are you financially planning for your retirement years, or how did you plan for it previously?
We've always, we're raised on farms, so you always put away for a rainy day, a rainy month, a rainy year. So saving has always been part of it. But really, we turned a lot of our profits back into our businesses so that we had a very successful business to sell. And we now have a second very successful business to sell. I've had customers saying, Norma, keep us on speed dial if you ever decide to sell your business, because of what Larry and I built it up to. So we know that a day will come when we're not able to do it anymore. Until that day comes, we're going to keep giving her because we love it. But it's very neat to know that we have people chomping at the bit to buy that second business from us when we can't do it anymore. And we have an excellent accountant who has helped us structure our tax work and to structure the 2 corporations. But Larry, that screen that's on right now, you got to tell them what you're doing in that picture and what it's on.
The picture, the upper picture there, that's where I had to crawl up the exhaust on a Boeing 727 and weld on the rear bearing fairing. And to do that, you can't even see where you're welding. You have to weld in a mirror.
And if anybody doesn't realize how hard it is to TIG weld in a mirror in a situation like that, when he's up on a set of air stairs, just try and thread a needle with some thread in a mirror. It's pretty neat. Larry's got amazing skills. And the little sketch picture on the bottom, that's just our airplane. That's our logo that we had somebody draw for us. But I love that picture of Larry welding on that Boeing.
It's quite actually intriguing. It looks difficult. Absolutely. I was going to ask about that first point on the slide we have. It says that you started saving when you were young. Is that right? So just like how in health, how did that go? You started very young. Is that right?
Very, very young. Anytime you or I got money for Christmas or birthday or anything, we invested it. And we did the same thing with our kids. Every time we got another $1,000, I'd teach kids, let's look. And that in those days and we did the same things ourselves. There were Canada Savings bonds, there were Treasury bills, there were GICs. And our oldest son hit the years in the early 80s when there were like 19 and 20% interest rates. And he did very, very well. I remember he bought Bombardier shares when he was in grade 4, and they doubled before he even got the certificate. In those days, the companies had to mail you a certificate. And the Royal Bank had a program that kids didn't have to pay brokerage fees. So we taught our kids to use that as well. I remember our daughter had Greyhound shares when she was going to grade 9. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
Most kids were worried about starting the first day of high school. She went to Ancaster High. And she said, Mom, Greyhound just announced that they're not going to fly anymore. Sell my shares this morning. And she did very, very well on those. So we always taught our kids to be a bit smart with saving. So we saved in our business, and then we tried to make smart investments.
And we always, we never spent money that we didn't have. We always operated on our own.
That's right.
On our own money, not on loans.
That's right.
Awesome. Thank you so much for telling us about that. And now I just wanted to briefly talk about like the 4 stages of retirement, as it's been called, and how people have got the generalized like idea of how people have eased into retirement. First on, there's usually like a vacation as soon as you've retired. It's like a relaxation. You feel like you need to indulge in some leisure, relax for a while. All the work that all the relaxing you've been putting off during your working years, just relaxing. And then as the initial excitement wears off, many retirees begin to feel some sort of like emptiness, questioning the purpose or direction, like when you realize you can't go on like this. And then trial and error, where you start experimenting with different activities, hobbies, or volunteer work to find fulfillment or purpose. And then not everyone usually can makes it to phase 4, but it's about embracing this renewed sense of purpose often centered around giving back, mentoring. I was really interested in hearing about how you're giving back, you're mentoring people about the different types of welding in your niche area, and how you're kind of just giving back to the community in that sense and teaching them about all these meaningful things that you've learned throughout your years.
And that whole slide really is what Larry and I have tried to avoid, because we had the advantage, and maybe it's because we've always been in business and always had to make proactive decisions, but we watched friends retire. And I remember we had a customer some years ago who was so excited that he was going to retire from a large corporation. And he said, Norma, I can't wait. I'm going to golf every day. I just love golfing. And time passed, and I saw him maybe 6 or 7 months after he retired. And I said, so how's it going? And he looked at me with this look and he said, Norma, when you can do what you love doing all the time, it's not fun anymore. So Larry and I, we've watched friends. We have friends that just sit at home and enjoy doing Facebook, but they don't want to get up and do physical things anymore. And by watching others, we tried to avoid this whole slide, right, Larry?
Well, that's right. Because we have never worked for anyone else, we don't have we don't have a
something to try and get away from. Like every day is a
No.
holiday to Larry and I, whether we're
That's right.
working or whether we're on vacation.
Yeah.
We love every day, because if we don't want a job, we won't take it on. We'll suggest somebody go somewhere else.
And we don't have a big pension from a company. When we sold our company, then we had to deal with that money and paid all the tax and everything. And then that's there for us to use.
Yeah, but it just, these are the 4 stages that we've avoided by semi-retirement. And I haven't heard a lot of people talk about semi-retirement, but we think it's lovely. When you have your own business, you can cut back the hours. Our customers all know that we're a little bit independent. And if they want our skills, they got to work with our time frame. And so far for us, that's worked fantastically.
Yeah, and then we just wanted to ask, because you've talked so much about your flying and how you have a flying license, do you have life insurance or travelers insurance? Is there any other types of insurance you would recommend to anyone?
We're probably not the best ones to recommend a lot of insurance. We've never had life insurance because our saleable assets have been our insurance, and we've just built that up. And life insurance is just not a premise that Larry and I have ever partaken in. But travel insurance, we always do. Medical travel insurance, yeah.
Awesome.
But we don't need cancellation insurance, because if we cancel our plane, it's going to be us doing it.
Yeah, and for anyone who's watching, you can watch more about our life insurance on our life insurance webinar and learn more about the pros and cons of each type of life insurance and get an idea of how lifestyle it might impact your life insurance and risk factors that could affect your premiums.
So for travel insurance, where'd you get your travel insurance from?
Through CAA.
Okay.
And we buy the annual package, so we can go and come as much as we like. And our trips are never over 3 weeks at a time anyway, because we have to get back for business. But with the CAA travel insurance, you can come and go across, and we only travel in Canada and United States, but we're covered in both countries anytime we want to go. We don't have to phone them or anything. We both carry both of our cards in our wallets, but we know we're covered, and we just pay an annual fee.
How much does the annual fee cost around?
Approximately $500. I think a little less for me, a tiny bit more for Larry. We think it's a great program so that we're covered.
I like the idea about no cancellation insurance. You just cancel your flight when you want to.
That's right. That's right. And life insurance, that one is all different by someone's financial situation, but we've always had the wherewithal to put enough money away so that we would be okay for any life challenges.
So if Air Canada goes on strike, the pilots, you gonna fly for Air Canada for a while?
No, but we do work for a lot. We work for Air Canada. We do welding work, and we train and test Air Canada's welders.
Nice.
Alrighty, just want to also, I was gonna ask Larry and Norma, what was your strategy to prevent cold, flu, and COVID? I think this is timely for me as I'm recovering last fall, and also throughout the pandemic. What did you do?
Well, we've had all our immunizations for COVID-19. This time we're watching with interest. The government is fumbling the ball a little bit in that they've rescinded all the vaccines because they aren't quite sure what they're doing. So the jury's still out this fall. But until now, we definitely were believers in the COVID vaccinations.
We haven't taken the flu vaccine because we figure if we're healthy, we can prevent the flu ourselves, and if we do get it, then we'll fight it off.
But we've got the good fortune of, I think, a good lifestyle with being active, eating healthy, and a positive mindset. Yeah, if you do ever get a flu, it's
yeah, and it's
I can't even remember the last time that we've had it.
It's worked for us, and we grew up on the farm where if you had the flu, you still had to do your chores and everything else.
That's right. The animals still needed to be milked and fed and cleaned.
I'm going to give you a little different perspective. So when you're young, you have a very good, strong immune system. After the ages 50s and 60s, your immune system starts to fall apart. And so right now in your 70s, your immune system is nowhere the strength what it was when you were in your 20s. I would reconsider that strategy. So what I've done personally is you want to train your immune system, and vaccines do train your immune system. So what I've done is get every effing vaccine I can right now. So for instance, 7 or 20, I get the flu shot every year. Reason for that is that flu shot is does kill, and does weaken, increases the risk of heart disease. Um, is that I got, shingles. I think 1 in 5 people I think will develop shingles later
And
on.
we do have,
We
both
did.
of us have our shingles
Yeah.
vaccine.
Yeah. Now the news for the RSV vaccine, and basically, um, in the United States, they keep better data. We don't actually keep good data in Canada right now compared to the Americans. So if you look at right now, wastewater data, which is looking at viral shedding, is extremely high in the States to high levels. That means there's a lot of COVID around. We don't even have proper kits for testing in Canada right now, and we've gone away from that. And COVID can be a nasty virus. It goes something called the AT2 receptor, so it lines your blood vessels, your brain. It can accelerate potentially dementia, diabetes, heart disease, and on, and maybe certain cancers. So um, I'm going to get a vaccine every 6 months to a year for COVID at this point in time. What the vaccine is good at doing is preventing severe infections. It's not good
And
at
how are you looking at the government's decision
well,
to rescind this year?
look, I haven't been impressed with any government for the last number of years.
Exactly. That's where I was going.
Yeah, and yeah, we're still learning about COVID at this stage. It's a new virus, but right now in the United States, 1 to 2% of total mortality per month is COVID related. I'll repeat that. 1 to 2% of people die because of COVID. If you're going to die from something, so I'd rather die of cancer. Actually, I guess my dream is to. I guess if I was going to die, I'd rather die in a glider than die of in a hospital bed with COVID, I guess. But I hope I don't die in any other
Exactly.
places.
But I think in the province of Ontario, it's one of the 2 provinces where they currently have rescinded the vaccinations. So until the government makes a decision in
Yeah.
October, it isn't currently available.
But you may want to run that past your instructor.
Sounds good.
For the gliding. Yeah,
the
good point.
gliding,
Good
yeah.
point.
So and so to me is it's an ounce of prevention, like learning to glide, landing your plane properly than versus a crash landing. So to me, a crash landing is is a problem. A nice stable landing, and the vaccine actually are what they just do is that some vaccines work extremely well, some work less well than others, and
Exactly. But at this point in time, we have to wait in Ontario a little bit to see what the government decides. And if they come out with the new one, then yeah, Larry and I will be on board to get it.
the vaccine's coming out, and it's going to be in time for flu season, I hope. And what I'm going to do is get my flu shot and my COVID vaccine simultaneously in the same time, if I can.
Yeah, but my understanding is right now they're not available until at least the middle of October.
That's probably true. And what's this thing about tire wear? I like this.
Yeah, this one since we're on the topic of fall vaccination, this is more relevant for COVID, not for flu, because for flu, you don't boost every season. The strains change, so you have to revaccinate. It's actually a misconception that a lot of people share that if I got the flu vaccine last year, do I still need to? Yes, you need it every year because the strains change and the actual vaccine changes. For COVID, a little bit different, although the actual type for COVID vaccines is changing as well. It's a little bit similar to the flu. But some people ask, if I've already been vaccinated 2, 3, 4 times, do I still need it? And the answer obviously depends. Can't make a generalization, but by and large, the way it works is that when you get that booster, there's something called antibodies. There are these proteins that neutralize the viruses. Imagine the police it does very specific work. It goes specifically attacks the COVID virus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and that's what the boosters give you. They give you a little bit of these more proteins, so that if you are at risk, you have extra protection in the fall and winter seasons. Unfortunately, it is short-lived. About depending on the person, depending on the study, look at 100 days, 120 days of protection. After that, it wanes off, even from the boosters. But this is an analogy that when you go to the winter season, do you want to switch to winter tires or just keep the same tire? And it's all about risk and risk-benefit analysis. If you are at risk, it's probably in your favor, to stack the odds in your favor by getting that booster. Somebody who is not at risk probably make an individual decision. But again, a very good analogy. Would you change your tires if you go on the highway, for example, in the winter? If you are at risk, somebody goes on the highway, more risk. If you have obesity, diabetes, all those kinds of risk factors, a booster might be something to consider for COVID as well. Again, that's generalization. Individual decisions vary, but we just wanted to share this quickly as a key takeaway, that boosters are a little bit like winter tires.
Alrighty. So let's give some. What's the final message, Larry and Norma, you want to share with the world?
I think balance to everything, whether it's diet or exercise or whatever. I think you have to balance everything
and keep it positive, because mindset has an awful lot to do with it. But go for the overall package of eating healthy, exercising, and go for lots of activity, sports, and keep challenging yourself mentally and find joy in life. Be positive, and it really helps a lot.
Don't spend too much time thinking about the governments.
Too much politics sours the
That's
wine.
right. That's right. Make it happen instead. Just believe you can make it happen, and you can make a difference in your own life.
We've always said we did well in business in spite of the government, not because of it.
You know, it reminds me of JFK's quote, what you can do for your country and not the other way around. It's
That's
the same
right.
tale.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Well, should we finish with some push-ups?
Yeah.
Anybody, if you have some energy.
Well, first of all, I want to thank, when I first met Larry and Norma, I was just very impressed with their energy. You walk into the room, they make you feel better. Some people, you walk to the room, you just want to crawl into a corner and run away. I want to actually get to know you better. And thank you for sharing your insights. And is that I see too many people, like you mentioned, just, okay, go to Facebook, just sit at home, watch TV. And man, there's so much to do right now. And it sounds like you're not going to run out of anything to do. And I like the fact that you really, you're not one of the 60 or 67% of calories by processed food. You create your food. You don't worry about air travel. You actually make air travel. You're learning new things. You're stimulating your brains. And you're sharing that. You're teaching other people your craft and things of that nature. And you're still flying. Encourage people to go try different things.
And that's exactly what we do, because we find the people that sit at home and look at too much Facebook, they're looking at an idealistic version of other people's lives. And we don't have time to do for that, because we have too many new things that we want to keep doing and things that we find enjoyment in.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm a very imperfect person, and going to try to do some push-ups. Who's going to do some push-ups with me?
I think Larry's going to try. I will try too.
All right.
We're probably
you can do virtual push-ups.
We're in our hotel room and we haven't had supper
no worries,
yet.
No worries.
Okay, here we go.
I'll try.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 24. That's all I can do. Holy shit. Sorry. Shouldn't use those words.
You're fine.
Yeah.
We've shoveled it
on
the farm.
Work up to 40. I can't get past 24.
I think
but
last
it's
night
just like I
25
talked about. It's the tiny steps. Someday you'll be able to do one more, and that's a real good feeling.
Perfect.
And at our age now, it's more to keep the strength that you've got rather than to try to impress people by putting on more strength. Because we have to accept our age. We don't have to accept that we have to act our age, but we have to accept our age.
And we embrace it and
Yeah.
try and make the most of it.
Yeah.
So, Rad, do you want to give some any final thoughts at all?
Final thoughts. I've given many thoughts tonight, but I think I'll just end off with do what is easiest for you. And life is a marathon. Being healthy is a marathon. Pick something that you can do, just like Larry and Norma has. Find yourself a good friend, a good spouse, and go from there. Support system is probably one of the biggest pillars of health. It should be a title of a book, probably. And I'll finish with that.
Dr. Gifford Jones said the most important thing a man can do for his health is to marry a smart woman.
There you go. And I think, Larry, you did that. I see
No,
Michael.
I don't.
too.
I don't know. I do not profess that. But Dr. Gifford Jones, some great advice from him, and that's one of his favorite sayings.
Yeah. I'm not sure if the team had any final comments. I see Mike's on the line. Mike is the guy that introduced me to these mini triathlons, and I've been delinquent the last couple of years. I used to go with Mike. He's done, I think, 8 or 9 of these mini triathlons all year round in all these places. And when I do them, I finish last. But it's really enjoyable. And next year, Mike, we'll go get back to this year. I've been flying too much, but look forward to getting to that. And I want to thank the entire team for a wonderful presentation. A special thanks to Larry and Norma showing us how to age well and to keep experimenting, trying new things. And thank you so much. I really appreciate your story.
Thank you for all you do for us.
Thank you very much.
Have a great night, everybody.
You too.